Welcome to episode 43 of the Ikario podcast. In this episode, Dean and I are going to be talking about the 4 different aspects of physical health and well-being. These are movement, sleep, social connections and nutrition. And also we'll talk a little bit about stress too and the role it plays. This is quite a funny episode and it was a really enjoyable one for me and Dean to record. Throughout this episode, we audit our own lives in each of these 4 areas too. So if you want to improve your health and well-being, this episode is a must listen. The links and show notes can be found at ikario.com/043. And if you want to leave a voice message, go to anchor.fm/ikario. And with all that jazz out of the way, I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the Ikario podcast, where we help you break free from the human zoo, optimize your life, and become a force to be reckoned with. With your hosts again, same as last episode, Ollie, and I'm not joined by Shane. This time, I am joined once again by Dean.
Hello!
I'm joined by Dean, and I'm joined by a very, very red shirt. In case you guys are listening to this on Spotify, you might want to go over to YouTube to check this red shirt out. Dean, that shirt you are rocking it right now
I'm
with that.
getting very comfortable in this seat.
Yeah? You're going to come up, you're going to arrive in the next podcast episode all fluorescently dressed. This just corresponds with your confidence level.
Thank you.
But anyway, what are we talking about today? We are talking about physical health, and I just want to clarify something. Physical health, emotional health, mental health, all that other stuff, all holistically connected. But today, we're going to go pretty damn practical. We're going to cover a few different pillars of health, aren't we, Dean?
Yeah.
We're talking about sleep.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about movement. We're talking about nutrition. We're talking about
Social connections.
Social connections, okay. And we did actually mention stress management as being a part of this, but maybe we'll get to that towards the end because the conclusion we reached was that stress, if you're nailing it in all those 4 areas, right? Usually stress will
doing it.
Yeah, stress will kind of take care of itself, possibly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not entirely sure about that, but we'll cover that toward the end. So what we're actually going to do in this episode, we figured a good jumping off point for this would be just auditing ourselves and having a bit of a chinwag about some things that work for us and some things that don't work for us when it comes to nailing it in all 4 of these areas, which I most certainly am not doing.
No,
but
not me. But doing well, generally speaking, and that's why I think it's quite good to look at it in separate parts because especially between you and me, you struggle with some where I don't, sleep, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas in other things, it's the other way around. So it'll be interesting to unpack it live as we go.
Well, let's dive into it then, Dean.
Good.
On that note, you did just mention sleep.
Oh,
how are things going with you in sleep? And by the way, the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker really communicated to me how fundamentally important sleep is. And with my clients, when I used to be a personal trainer, like the first thing I'd ask them is how well they slept. And some of them would say, yeah, I sleep a solid 7 hours. But it'd be broken. It'd often be broken 7 hours. They'd wake up still feeling groggy and stuff. And the sleep just generally wouldn't be very good, which would have a knock-on effect on everything else. Like the nutrition, for example. If they're not sleeping very well, it would be much harder to resist cravings when they arise and stuff like that. But how's sleep going with you?
Yeah, I don't think my side will be that interesting because I generally sleep well, always have. In fact, I slept so well as a baby that my parents thought something was wrong with me.
As in what? As in like you slept consistently, you didn't wake up?
I slept a lot all the time that my parents took me to a child doctor. Pediatrician said, there's something wrong, my child's sleeping. The doctor just went, shh, go home. Count yourself as lucky. So I've been pretty blessed to say that I've got a healthy relationship with sleep. If anything, I tend to sleep too much. And that became my problem. So that's the one thing that I can address is that I've often been the person, I can't wake up in the mornings. I sleep in. And I noticed that the more stressed I am, the more I'll sleep. I don't really have depression tendencies, but still, if ever, we all fall into slumps of depression every now and again. You can tell I'm depressed if I'm sleeping in like really long hours. But at the moment, I'm good. I'm waking up at a time that I'm happy with. I'm generally happy with the way that I'm sleeping, the quality of my sleep, and I'll just the reason I think I'm doing really well is I know that I take care of having the right pillow. That counts a lot for me. So if that's something you haven't considered, get yourself a pillow, experiment with different pillows because that really helps.
Huh.
And then not to be jumping into the next pillar, but keeping busy, keeping exercise, physically busy. And I know I'm doing both of those things, which is letting me sleep well. So I'm doing well there. I'm good. How are you?
Good question. On that note, what you just mentioned, I just wanted to comment.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that when you'd mentioned that when you get sort of mentally burdened, you have a tendency to sleep more.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of interesting because that's because it can go one of two ways when it comes to, say, let's just use depression as an example. In the book, How to Lift Depression, what is it? How to Lift Depression Fast, I think, by the Human Givens approach. One of the best books on depression I've ever read. In the book, they talk about the importance of sleep, and specifically REM sleep. And there's another podcast episode I did a few episodes ago with Martin Dunley, a Human Givens therapist. We talked about this as well, about how it's like the cycle of depression kicks in when you start getting, a few of your needs you're not getting met all of a sudden in your life, and then your mind kicks in, starts worrying about it, and that worry takes emotional energy, which is basically physical energy. It just requires energy from you to worry so much.
Yeah.
And the worry actually can keep you awake at night, which stops you getting REM sleep that would be required to process these emotions, because REM sleep apparently serves a big function in that. And then you wake up feeling knackered still, and then the cycle just keeps going and whatnot. So I think I would see this from that lens, that sleeping too much when you're depressed or when you're emotionally or mentally burdened by something, I would actually say that in some ways is better than the opposite.
I would say so too. Yeah.
Because your body's sort of taking over and saying, listen, we're struggling now. You need to sleep more. Get it done. And I imagine, tell me this, it happens in phases.
Yeah.
So you'll sleep, like you go through phases where you sleep more.
Yeah.
And then will it generally clear itself up and you'll return to a normal state?
Pretty much. And that's why I say I don't really have a problem with depression. I would say if I did, it could be crippling, because you become almost, you can become bedbound where you just don't want to get up. With me, it used to be just work. It's more was always a feeling of I woke up later than I wanted to, and you're starting your day on the wrong foot, and then you struggle to get in, and you're chastising yourself all day because you missed the best part of the day already. It's gone by, and now you're catching up all day, and then you go to bed going, ugh, and you're tired, and so it wasn't a good state of being. I've always wanted to be a morning person, but I wasn't.
Got you. Whereas,
but it was more about the story I was telling myself rather than actually just accepting that, sleeping is good for you. When that was the changing point, when I decided, or when you read these books or you hear about, watched enough videos on Matthew Walker too, and he's like, no, sleep, do it.
Well, that guy looks great for his age as well. That guy looks great for his age. I don't know how old he is. He's in his 40s though, I think.
Yeah. So I've developed a healthy relationship with sleep. In other words, that you have a gift here, don't wish it away. So that's why I said, like, my side is very easy. That's why I'm interested to hear more from you. Like, what are the things you struggle with, and what have you been doing to get over it?
It's tricky with me, man. Like, so I've noticed there's some things. Well, first of all, I did quite an enlightening character, like a personality assessment called the VIA Character Strength Survey. I've done this a few times across the past sort of 5-6 years.
Hoping for a change.
Hoping for a change. Sometimes things do change. Like my top
Okay.
5 character strengths do often change. There's some that remain no matter what. Humor being one of them, for example. But there's also the top 5 bottom strengths, as in like the strengths that are just not strengths. Like they're afraid in that because it's positive psychology. They're afraid of calling them weaknesses or areas for improvement. They just say your
weakest
strengths. That's what they say. It's quite funny. And it's always at the bottom is self-regulation. So that's the ability to self-soothe emotions and difficult like mental states and stuff like that. I find it very difficult. So like my nutrition and my sleep are two of the things that just get completely just knocked out of kilter when I'm dealing with some mental, some life problem or something that requires mental or emotional energy. Sleep, yeah, I can usually tell. But the thing is, I often think I don't help myself. It's like when it comes to sleep hygiene-based stuff, I go through periods where it's like, okay, struggling with something relationship-wise or struggling with some problem or whatever. I know that I should go to bed earlier, but I just don't. I reach this point in the evening, for example, and it's usually when everyone else has gone to bed, where I'm just sort of enjoying myself. I'm on Reddit, I'm watching YouTube videos, I'm playing on Xbox or something, and I'm just sort of chilling. I'm just in my own space, and I'm actually really enjoying myself. And I'm reluctant for that to end so quickly. And which suggests to me then from that there's probably a need for privacy that's not being met usually.
I was thinking that now.
Yeah, because that's how you can look at it from the perspective of human needs. Privacy is one of them. And it's like usually, and I often felt the same thing when I was younger and I lived with my parents. It'd be the same deal. Like everyone else go to bed, I wouldn't want to go to bed because everything's really quiet. I'm on my own. I'm in my own space. It feels great. I don't want it to end that quickly.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially when I'm going through something like difficult, like I've been dealing with problems all day, I've been working and whatnot, comes around to the evening, I'm like, fuck, go to sleep already. Fuck that. Jesus Christ, this is my time. This is my time to enjoy myself.
I'm going to start this whole rigmarole again tomorrow
Exactly.
morning.
So I think, just from talking it out loud now, I think that's kind of what happens. I'm just reluctant to end it so quickly, even though I know it's good for me. So that's why I kind of slip up when it comes to the sleep hygiene stuff.
Okay.
But more recently, it's been pretty bad, to be honest. Like I'd end up sleeping like 6 hours or something. But what happens often is my body will I'll wake up early, maybe around 7:30 or something, and I just can't get back to sleep no matter what. Like even if I don't need to be up for a bit later or whatever. Or sometimes I'll wake up at like 6 and my mind will just kick in, like worrying about things. And I'm like, oh, well, there's absolutely no way I'm going to sleep now. Because my mind is already worrying about everything.
That's the worry that puts me back to sleep.
Really?
Yeah. If I'm lying there and I'm going, no, I don't want to deal with this. Gone, out. Doesn't help. You've got to wake up at some point and deal with it. So it doesn't, that's why I say it doesn't make you feel better. So it's still a problem. It's not the way to handle it, but it definitely, I can, if it's preventing you from sleeping, I suppose what choice do you have but to get up?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I meditate, I do all these other things, I do journaling and whatnot. Sometimes this beast is pretty intense. It's like I wake up and my mind is just ruminating, basically.
I hate this word I'm about to use.
Go on.
Should. What should you be doing?
I mean, what should I be doing? I know that the thing is, it's a screwed up cycle. I know that I perpetuate because I'm reluctant to go to bed early, which means I'll wake up feeling more tired, which means that the mental emotional problems will compound because I've not slept well enough. And then that will then the desire and craving for my alone time where I can feel a bit relaxed in the evening, the desire for that will increase, which means I'm less likely to, sometimes I'll go to bed later. So then this cycle just perpetuates itself. So what should I be doing? I should probably pay attention, keep my finger on the pulse and check, like when I'm starting to sort of use sort of distractions in the evening and not go to bed earlier and stuff. When it starts getting into the AMs, when I start to go to sleep and stuff, I'm like, okay, this is a sign maybe to check in with myself and really ask myself what's going on with me and how I feel about it.
Yeah, because you're pretty good at that in the mornings, right? You take the time to write, you take the time to meditate.
Yeah, but recently I've been feeling like all these things are a chore.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't want to meditate. Like usually I do. Usually I'm like, yeah, this is important to me. But sometimes I've been waking up, my mind is already racing, and I just think, fuck all this stuff. Why meditate? Why do you write in? Fuck it. Like I want to just do self-destructive stuff, you know. But yeah, sometimes I wake up feeling really groggy, and the only thing that I seem to lean on is coffee, which also I've been drinking more coffee, which fucks up my sleep even further. So these things happen in cycles. You know, I mean, like you get into a cycle of this, more like a vortex.
Yeah.
So recently, that's been the area that's been screwing up, that's been messing up for me, and it's been affecting other areas of my life too. So it's like a chicken and egg problem, as Shane would say.
Yeah.
Is it the sleep that causes all these things, or is it like or lack of sleep that causes all these emotional problems or whatever, or is it the fact that you have problems that are causing the lack of sleep? Maybe it's just both things that feed each other.
I definitely think it's both, and that's why I said I'm in a good place because I've kind of worked on both. So on both fronts, in other words, working on the sleep problem actively, and then working on other things which make me sleep. That's improved my life without a doubt.
Yeah.
So more exercise consistently. No alcohol, especially no alcohol in the evenings. That like helps big time because, as I learned this from Matthew Walker, I didn't know this all these years. Alcohol helps you sort of pass out, but it doesn't let you sleep. It sedates you, so you're not sleeping; you're sedated. So you actually can't reach REM. Basically, you can't. You're just lying there in a self-made coma. And you're not, so that's why you can wake up after with a hangover. The reason the hangover is so bad is because you practically didn't sleep. You were just sedated all the time.
That's nuts. I mean, that kind of tracks, because I feel.
So if you think about it,
I feel smashed today, and if I think yesterday I drank 4 Cerveza Grandes Canicas with Ryan, and that's totally impacted things.
Yeah, and then once you get that hang of it, that's why I was like, oh, get the pillow. Like, so you make deliberate choices about it. The one that I need to beat still, and I'm trying. I'm succeeding slowly, but my YouTube time in the evenings is probably my biggest distraction. That I'll just fall into watching YouTube for a bit as the last thing that I do in the day. When I don't do that, and I know the evenings that I haven't, where I rather just listen to music in the darkness or something for half an hour, it's better.
Right.
So audiobooks have actually been my savior in that way, because it's just as intriguing, just as interesting as a YouTube, maybe even better, because you're going a bit deeper than just the shallow stuff that comes through.
Yeah.
But those are the things that have helped me for sure.
Yeah, that works for me. Last night, for example, I've got the Waking Up app with Sam Harris, which is just, that app just gets better and better. He keeps adding new stuff to it that's just amazing. And one of them is like conversations he has with people. I think they're taken specifically from his podcast, but it's more pertinent to like meditation and spirituality and stuff. So occasionally I'll just listen to one of those and it will send me to sleep, because he has just this often monotone, calming kind of voice.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, that works. But it's interesting because recently I've been getting to sleep easier, because I struggled with insomnia for a long time, where the cogs would get turning mentally, and I'd try and go to sleep at any time, and I just lay there for hours. I've not actually had that problem in a very long time. So that problem's solved. It's been replaced by a new one, whereas like I'm reluctant to even just go to bed early. Maybe because I fear that that's going to happen, but
yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I know there's a lot of tips for sleep. I know that you hear a few things like an eye mask, keep your bedroom keep your bedroom cool, like the temperature, keep it cool, not too hot, kind of thing, which is difficult in an unair conditioned apartment in Portugal in a summer, which did affect things. Also, lavender. Apparently, lavender is something that really helps. But for me, when I was struggling with insomnia and I was doing all these different sleep hygiene strategies, it felt like putting a plaster on a shotgun wound. I was like, I can't sleep. Sometimes I go to bed at like 11 and I'm there until 3.
Yeah.
And I'm just in this half asleep state where it's just so strange. And I'd just be spraying lavender everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'd be getting through bottles of lavender like it was going out of fashion. It just wouldn't work. So I tried those things. Didn't quite work for me. So So
Yeah, I think the one practical takeaway is, especially listening to you, is what are you doing before bed now? Just be mindful of that for like extremely mindful of it for a while.
Mate, honestly, when I say I don't help myself, last night I was on Reddit until the point of going to sleep pretty much.
Okay.
And the thing I was watching on Reddit was, what is it? The Instant Karma subreddit.
Mm-hmm.
Instant Karma is like someone does something shitty and then gets justice served in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that just triggers like this state of like righteous indignation or anger or something. Even I'm in a highly aroused emotional state, like yeah, fuck that guy, yeah. And then trying to go to sleep makes no sense.
Yeah.
You know. So as I say, sleep is not so great right now, but I don't help myself.
Yeah.
But let's
well, that's exactly the thing. To move beyond sleep.
Yeah.
I could hear you were going there. Anyway.
Yeah, I was switching pillars.
It's because how do you fix this? By not focusing on the problem. Look somewhere else, right?
Great point. Thanks, Dean, for mentioning that, because that is something that I've tried in the past. Like I tried running when I ran a health coaching business. I tried running a sleep challenge.
Yeah.
Like, the fucking whole premise of that doesn't make any sense. Okay, right. You're going to focus on sleeping 8 hours a night, and it's a challenge.
Lie down, go.
And if you don't, like, quick, sleep harder. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. No. Some of these people were like people over the age of 40, and they've got like loads of responsibilities, kids, you know, like a high-powered job and stuff like that. And I'm just giving them something else to worry about in the form of a challenge, where sleeping is something where it's more like a letting go. Yeah. Where sleep is not an effortful thing. It's more like a letting go thing. But when you place conditions on it and say, right, you must get 8 hours as part of a challenge, and if you don't, you failed the challenge. It's like, Jesus Christ, for people who are already stressed, that's the worst possible thing you can do. So, yeah.
How do you clean your life up outside of sleep?
Clean your life up, you dirty bastard. Okay, so so let's talk a little bit, switch gears a bit. Let's talk a bit about nutrition.
Another not so. We're going from the bad one to the other bad one.
For me,
I'm not great here either.
Okay, well, how are things going for you in areas of nutrition then, like your diet?
Okay, better than ever, but still not great.
Okay, so what does that say about what it was like before?
It was I've become much more conscious of what I've been eating. I think when I passed the 30 mark, I had to. I carried on living the way I was before. I put on a lot of weight very quickly.
I've seen the photo.
Yeah, we might have to put one in, but
stick that in. Yeah, that's another plus. You know, if you check this out on YouTube, you're not only going to see Dean's red shirt, you also might I don't know, I might put this in, I might not. See a photo of what Dean used to look like. Dean's weight loss journey.
Yeah. So again, I don't want to go into the exercise one too early, because you see how it keeps wanting to come forward.
It's all connected, isn't it?
But the exercise, I've always been very active. I've always been moving a lot, and yet consistently I was putting on more weight over the years, and then age kicked in, and comfort of being in a long-term relationship and all that type of thing. It just bang hits you, but you don't realize how much you put on
I love the relationship
thing. Start losing it.
I love the relationship thing. It's like, someone loves me.
Yeah, exactly. So I hit a all-time high of 99 kilograms.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. And
you're like 99 pounds now, aren't you?
Yeah, something like that. You know, it's well, I've lost 21 kilograms since then.
Mate,
I wasn't the type of person who had to say, "Oh, you better lose 21 kilos." It doesn't. I was never that. Even then, you wouldn't have said it. But the point of all of this is that I wasn't looking at nutrition. I was just looking at feeding myself.
Right.
Whenever I was hungry, and when I made the decision to sort of watch what I eat, that's when my whole kind of life changed. I went into a bit more of a keto type diet. It didn't matter what diet it was. It was more just about being conscious of what I'm eating. But that worked for me in the sense that I was, the more proteins and fats I ate, the less hungry I felt, and the more easy it was to maintain. And then I didn't ever go on a weight loss diet ever, because I didn't think I was that overweight. I just thought I'll lose a little, slowly.
Yeah.
Only looking back over 2 years, just from kind of being conscious of what I'm putting in my mouth a little bit more and working on not feeling hungry. That was the main thing. I was so tired of going, oh, I'm hungry. What do I eat? Oh, I'm hungry. What do I eat? And then the moment I planned a meal or ate this type of meal later, it would be like, oh, I'm not hungry. I'm supposed to eat now. That's what changed over. And then it just became easier and easier. And over the course of 2 years, I've lost all that weight. And even now, I can fall off the diet a little bit, or the diet, I'm calling it diet, but I mean just life, the way I eat.
Yeah.
It's not so much, oh, I'm putting on weight that catches my attention. It's that I'm hungry all the time. That's when I know I'm straying from eating better.
Right.
And having kind of spoken to Shane about his experimenting with food and that, we've done challenges on this team, like the OMAD and 2MAD, 2 meals a day, 1 meal a day. I'm starting to food is something you can really experiment with to understand yourself better and your relationship to food. And that's the one thing that I always look for. Don't want to be hungry. And that just means eating a diet that fills all the nutrition pockets. So am I getting enough fat? Am I getting enough carbohydrates? Now that I'm exercising even more, I've got this whole routine going. Suddenly I was on a no carb diet. I was actually losing all my muscles. I was getting skinny. I was like, no. So all in all, where I'm at right now, I'm very conscious of what a balanced diet means. I'm not hitting it right, but I'm kind of having fun with it. I'm kind of like, oh, this isn't working. Let's change it up. And it's so all in all, I'm still experimenting, but it's going better than ever because I'm actually playing with healthy food. I've allocated a lot more of my monthly spending, less entertainment and more diet related.
It seems like a good investment.
Yeah. So again, I think I'm doing good there.
Sweet. So sleep, yes. Yeah. Nutrition, yes.
Better than ever. Yeah.
Whereas
still not great, but better than ever.
Cool. Whereas sleep for me, no, and nutrition, not great either. So for me, it's again, the mental emotional stuff again has a knock-on effect on nutrition for me big time also, where I stop prioritizing time and energy for cooking and even for food shopping. It's like it just gets knocked down the priority ladder. I don't eat that much and I end up just sort of ordering food. And it's really bad. There's a service in Portugal called Glovo. And Glovo basically will deliver you anything you want, pretty much anything. So you can order your groceries and they'll just bring them to your door. It's just the laziest fucking thing ever, right? The shop isn't even that far away. But even then, I'm just at the top floor of this apartment building. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. Glovo, I'll just ask them to bring it to me. It's just
you don't meet them halfway. You come on up.
Sometimes I do. And sometimes I do meet them halfway, but a lot of the time they just come all the way up.
Yeah.
And I think it's expected. I think they expect to do that, I think, in Portugal. But yeah, that's the thing that kind of takes a backseat. Now, the thing is, and by the way, when I say this, I don't mean I'm eating like processed stuff all the time or anything like that. I just think I don't put as much energy into this. And generally speaking, if I don't order takeout or something that day, I eat relatively well. Not as well as I could do, especially given the exercise I do, which I'll get to in a moment. But it's not good. I mean, when it comes to the practical sort of tips, after everything I've just said, I'm probably the last fucking person to give anyone any practical advice on this. But I did used to be a personal trainer, so I know roughly what I'm talking about to an extent. I kind of know what to do. I just don't do it right now. But I know that keeping it simple is really the best way forward. And I've always had this habit of eating quite a bit of protein because that's one of the things that a lot of these a lot of different diets, they might have conflicted on loads of different things and disagreed. But one thing they seem to agree on is protein, or that you need more of it than most people get.
Yeah.
Especially if you're training. So that's one thing that's never really gone. I've always had quite a bit of protein. I used to track my food. I used to weigh my food. I used to know every gram that went in my body of this and that. But again, that was just, I couldn't adhere to it because it was too strict for me. So what I would suggest to someone in my position, which is a great question to ask yourself, by the way, it's like, what would you say to a best friend who's going through this? Which tackles the self-compassion problem too. Is like sometimes we don't treat ourselves like our best friend, right? I would say, look, spend an hour writing about your nutrition and planning things out. Not like a strict diet plan. You'll eat this on this day.
Yeah, I didn't do any of that.
That I think is too strict, and that doesn't work in the long term.
No, but it's a short-term kick in. But I mean, expect it to stop.
I still don't think planning every single meal works. I still don't think that's a good idea because again, social aspects kick into that too, and it engenders this on-off mentality.
Yeah,
I'm on a diet. Oh shit, I'm off the diet.
Yeah,
and then the fuck it moment comes where it's like I was on the diet, following every meal. I saw it all the time with clients, and eventually they come around to a social gathering or an event or something, and they have a few crackers more than that weren't on the list. And it's like, I've broke the diet. I've screwed the diet up. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, it's just. They just go crazy at the buffet, right?
Yeah.
And I do the same.
Okay.
Well, what I would suggest is, look, write down 3 breakfast options, 3 lunch options, 3 evening meal options, and a couple of snack ideas. Roughly correspond that with a shopping list. Pick a time and a day in the week that you're going to do that shopping, and basically stick to it. So every morning you have an option of a few different things. Some you can vary it up in terms of how long it takes. If you're someone who will generally eat the same thing every day at the same time, like me, maybe 3, you don't need it. But I think most people kind of struggle with variety on that. So I think the 3 options is enough variety with enough structure. You know, I think that usually hits a balance.
Yeah.
I think that's usually pretty good. And it means that you have a rough idea on what you can buy at the supermarket. You know, without being overwhelmed.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend to myself, which I may implement. And then just do that. I think people get lost in the weeds a bit too much when they start thinking of, oh my God, how much protein, carbs, and fats does it need to be, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, you can't.
I just think as long as you have a bit of protein.
You got to
some carbs and some fats with more or less every meal.
Yeah.
And I say some carbs because I think, especially if you're carrying a bit of extra weight that you'd like to get rid of, you don't need to be loading up on half your plate full of pasta and half your plate full of rice. I think that's a bit unnecessary.
I think that's you hit the nail on the head there with like you've got to do it only to understand yourself. Once you've understood what you need to remain in a healthy status, then let go of the strict rules. And that's what I needed. It was a 2-month period to be conscious of it, not to stick to a diet, but rather to understand nutrition, which I didn't before, which was to say, more of this and less of that makes me feel like this.
I understand that because this is why I would often suggest to clients is that they track the food on MyFitnessPal for a week. And the idea is, look, I don't expect people to track the food all the time, every single day for the rest of their life. But, you know, some people would come in and they tell me they don't eat that much, but they're like 6 stone overweight.
Yeah.
You know, I don't eat that much. I eat pretty healthily. I'm like, unlikely. Let's track it. And a lot of people they just don't know how many calories are in things.
Yeah.
And often when we track the food for a week and compare the amount of calories they're ingesting versus the amount of calories their body actually needs to stay the same weight or even lose weight, usually like 1,000 calories a day over without even really knowing it.
But I almost want to ask you, is this a mindset thing of that you don't think you're doing good enough? Why do you not think you're doing good enough? Because you look good, you're healthy. What makes you say, I'm messing it up? You know, you're not overweight. You're not.
It's a great question.
Is it because you know better?
I think it's a knowledge thing. Like I'm well aware of what a healthy diet could look like.
Okay.
And the thing is with me, I've always had in my mind, and this is from childhood, 5 a day. Get you 5 a day.
Mm-hmm.
5 fruit, 5 veg a day. And when I was younger, it's kind of weird. I used to love like bacon and sausage cobs and stuff and McDonald's, and I'd be fed that quite regularly. Often.
What is it? Tell us quickly. What's a cob?
A cob. A cob is a bun, or a bap, or a what else should you say? Like a bacon and sausage cob. A cob in the UK. I was talking to Ryan about this yesterday as well. Is a bun,
and it's how do
what?
you describe it? It's all grease.
Bacon and sausage cob. You'd usually get a bacon and sausage cob from these breakfast vans. There'd usually be some in your local area. There'd be like a breakfast van where they'd park up, and it's usually for workers on an industrial estate or something. And they don't give a fuck about health, right? You just have a giant white fluffy bun, loads of butter, loads of sauce, and just like the greasiest bacon and sausage ever in there. And it's just, it's heavenly, to be honest. And I ate a lot of this stuff growing up.
Yeah.
And I'd often be fed this stuff as a reward, as like a positive reward for good behavior, right? So from a young age, the wiring was just forming itself. Just like, okay, I'm good. If I eat this stuff, I'm good. You know, that's basically that association forms. So when I feel shit in life, I then lean on shitty food to feel good. It's such a weird thing.
Yeah.
But it's the 5 a day thing, man. It's mainly that. I think if I ate 5 fruit and 5 veg a day, I'd feel all right. But I guess I don't know, because that's like a bottomless pit in it. It's like you could always eat better.
Yeah.
You know, and I often see like these daft Google images on like articles and stuff of like a plate just full of green stuff, and I just think that's the furthest thing from what I want to eat. Right?
Yeah.
You put that in front of me, I won't eat it to spite you, because I'd see it as a personal attack. Like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah. So it like Shane always says that healthy food can be tasty. Healthy food, you know, there are ways, but it's more the relationship in your mind that you got to fix first to believe that can be true. Otherwise, you're just gonna sabotage it yourself.
Yeah. You know what? The mental association I have with most healthy stuff is like sucks.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's all like. I wouldn't eat that if I didn't have to. If it wasn't healthy and it's something you had to do, it's like a necessary evil, I wouldn't. So that's the association. And it did occur to me a little while ago. Some people actually like really enjoyed this stuff for its own sake.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, I'd never thought of it like that before. I just thought that everyone that ate healthy stuff, everyone that ate like, you know, like spinach and stuff would just be like, I'm doing this because I have to, because I want to stay alive a bit longer and have a better life and stuff.
No, you can enjoy it.
And some people can enjoy it. And I just didn't think that. I was like, hang on, no way. How is that possible?
Yeah, it's that instant gratification, that instant feel good that we all feel. I mean, sugar is good, feels good. It does. It just takes a long time to get past feeling what no sugar feels like.
Yeah. For me, it's not so much sugar.
That's just the obvious one.
Salty, fatty stuff, greasy. That's the thing that's more my jam. But yeah, so that's me. I would rate nutrition right now as a solid 6 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, just from the outside, I think you're doing a lot better than you think you are.
The amount of times people say that to me.
And I think that's just important to mention that, because a lot about what we're talking about is the relationship you have to these things. My sleep was never as bad as I thought it was. My diet wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but it needed improving. And instead of chastising and saying, "Oh, I'm so terrible at it," I just had to change my perspective to those two.
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
Well, let's should we move on to movement now? Movement and exercise. What would you say about that? How are you doing
I'm going to let you go first this time.
All right. That is an area that I am absolutely killing it, to be honest. It's the positive associations always.
Yeah.
I got in the gym when I was young, when I was like 14. I got in the gym around the time when I had like experienced like real sort of traumatic shit in my life. And the gym was this source of power. Like everything like at the time felt so uncontrollable and inconceivable and really just chaotic. But the gym is where I felt that I could do something about that. Like I was in the gym and I felt like, okay, circumstances outside of me are chaotic and traumatic and everything. But in the gym, I can build myself up. And that's something that none of the shit that was happening outside of me could affect. I was like, I'm building myself up in this place. And I was around an environment. I was in an environment where everyone was doing the same thing, you know, for various reasons, of course. But everyone was still in the pursuit of being better, and I fed off that. So I've always had positive associations with it, and I feel it to this day. Like I'll wake up, and I'll look forward to going in the gym. Right now, I'm doing a 5-day split. So it's chest, back, shoulders, legs, and then arms and abs. It's the most just self-gratuitous fucking day. Arms and abs. Come on. What function does that have? I don't care though. So yeah, I'll go in and I'll train every morning, and I'll feel great doing it. I'll pump myself full of caffeine. I'll stick some drum and bass in the headphones, and I'll just throw some weights around. And I'll look really sort of angry while I do it. And it's cathartic for me, you know? And I'll meet a bunch of people in the gym and chat to them and have a laugh. I'll have a bit of a rave in the gym. I'll just be boogieing to myself and stuff. And it's just, I don't know, it's a place, I just feel no negativity whatsoever. None of it is a chore for me. And I can contrast that with eating healthy shit, which is just a complete chore for me. And it kind of makes sense from that angle. But yeah, the training I do, mainly weights. Don't really do any cardio because again, you can find conflicting advice for exercise anywhere on the internet. But when it comes to weightlifting and stuff, I keep my rest times short enough that I feel that my heart rate is, I can sense that my heart rate is quite high. I'm sweating my tits off while I'm doing it, all the way through the workout. And I feel like I'm getting enough of I'm getting sort of a steady state cardio effect from all that. But yeah, again, if I could improve anything, it'd be my cardio. But for what purpose, right? I'm not a marathon runner. I don't intend to do any distance running or anything like that.
And you can run.
And I can run.
Yeah,
if I need to run a 5K, I can run a 5K.
Yeah.
No problem. So yeah, but the fitness and movement aspect, I think I'm doing really well there, to be honest. I really enjoy it. So yeah.
Cool.
And yourself, sir, you started this new calisthenics thing, right?
Yeah, that's been really fun. So I've been pretty active my whole life, but kind of out of shape too. When I say out of shape, I mean like not like never the way I wanted. Who is, but I mean to a point that I'm kind of never really happy.
Right.
And the movement that I've always done has always been associated to things that I enjoy doing. So whether that's hiking or surfing, usually outdoor activities like that, going up into the mountains. And that's what I kind of grew up with. My dad would always, we would go skiing even in South Africa. We would always be on a mission to go and do something, which kept me going. And put in those circumstances, in those situations, I do quite well. So we would have a class outing, and I wasn't one of the jocks or the fit kids at school, but on a hike, on a 17K hike, I was in the front group. I was leading, I was smiling, I was pointing at things, I was going, and some of the fitter guys at the back were like keeping up, and this is was strenuous.
That'd be me.
Yeah, but put me on the sports field. Put me in a game of soccer or run track or whatever, and I was at the back. I was like, couldn't keep up with it. I hated it. I just hated the monotony of trying to do some kind of exercise in a school, in a very confined. But again, look how it's leading towards the mindset. I didn't care for it, so I felt more sluggish. So this is looking back at my childhood and going, that's what set me up for this stuff. But as I got into working life, working hours, fell into a little bit of a workaholic kind of mindset that I want to make money, and in an entrepreneurial way, and that can consume all your time. And the only exercise I ever had was going surfing or hiking, which very quickly becomes a weekend thing. So as we call it, a weekend warrior. And over the course of my 20s, that just became inadequate at some point. And not so much to stay in shape, because that's what I thought it was. That was to keep a healthy mind. because when you lose your mind, that's when you eat more shit, and
Yeah.
that's where you do less, and it spirals out of control. And I think that a prolonged lack of exposure to just general movement of my own enjoyment was why I eventually ended up so overweight. And it was nutrition. It was never the exercise, because I still surfed throughout all that time. I still went but it just wasn't enough. But I didn't go do it enough because I wasn't feeling good enough, or I didn't allow myself to do it. So at some point I had to make the decision, you've got to do regular exercise. And it started off with just doing push-ups and sit-ups and that regularly as part of my workday. And this started with ikario, maybe just a little bit before we kind of met up as a team and started this. But then I had the accountability of the team to push myself to really do it.
Yeah, you were still in the orbit of us.
Yeah, I was in the orbit. So it helped me to sort of do 30, 40 push-ups a day at different intervals, just to break up, to fit into the productivity basically that we were learning through focus and action through Shane.
Yeah.
It's like, take your breaks, do a 90, take a break. And I was like, oh, take a break, do push-ups. And through doing that, I noticed, oh, I'm feeling better. I want to do more. And only now, since I've managed to sort of build up my strength a little bit more from that point of view, when I do go hiking, when I do go surfing, it's a whole nother level. It's just, I haven't been able to surf much now in the summer. It's been very flat here. But the few times that I've gone, I can paddle for hours.
Yeah, I remember the last time
I
we
came out the water
together.
and I'm like, I can still go. I've got so much energy. And that came from consistently just having something to fall back on to keep you exercising. So I wasn't much of a gym visitor. And then COVID made that difficult again. But I was getting into gym quite a bit, a lot of swimming, a lot of that kind of thing. Anyway, long story short, being locked down this year, I decided I needed to do something. And that's why I decided to start this calisthenics course. And it's been teaching me a lot more about varied muscle sort of throughout the body to bulk up my weaker spots. And that has strengthened me up in 6 weeks already, like considerably. It's a 6-month course that I'm doing, and I'm only 6 weeks in.
We're going to link to that. We're going to link to that course. And it's the YouTube channel Calisthenics Movement, right?
Cali Move, yeah.
Cali
Calisthenics Move.
All right.
With Alex and I can't remember the other guy now.
Is that bald shredded guy?
Yes, him.
Yeah, okay.
And it was the one that I'm doing is do it from home. You basically need 2 chairs and you're good to go.
Right.
And you only do it 3 times a week. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it's about 20 to 30 minutes a day. That's it. It is so easy. Need, right? And it's intense. And it only costs like somewhere between $60 and $70.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
it.
Come on. It's
so
I
hate to
sound no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like our procrastination course, 21 Days to Crush Procrastination. It's around the same price, and you get it's about the same amount of value. Anyway, carry on.
Get in there, shove it in.
Subtle.
Yeah. No, it's so that whole long story. Again, there's been this gradual development to getting better, and where I'm at right now, I'm happy. I'm pleased with myself that I'm kind of took the initiative to do that course. I think it helps, like you said, gravitating around you guys, around ikario, the whole principles, taking care of it. But without a doubt, my sleep is better because of my nutrition. My nutrition's better because of the exercise. The exercise is better because of the sleep, and it's just all connected. And as a result of that, I feel generally better than I ever have in my entire life.
Nice.
Even though I got a long way to go. I've got a long way to go in terms of strength, in terms of how I want to look, in terms of how I want to eat. Yeah, there's room for improvement, but I'm on a trajectory that if I just keep this up, it'll be better and better.
One of the things that you mentioned, which I like as a practical tip for people, is to start small. You know,
tiny.
You said you were just started off doing some push-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
This is why when people say, I can't exercise because I don't have the time. It's one of the most common excuses I heard as a PT. It's like, I can't exercise, I don't have the time for it. I'm like, that's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
It's complete and utter bollocks. You know, it's like you tell me you can't do 10 push-ups.
Yeah.
and then 11 the following day, and then 12 the following day, etc. Right?
Yeah.
It's like although to be fair, I empathise because I think what they often mean by that is they don't have the mental energy to think about that because
Yeah.
they've got so many other responsibilities and stuff. But the point is, it's still an excuse, right? You can start small, 10 push-ups, 10 squats, 10
You almost
crunches.
need to start small.
Yeah. Start small and consistent. It's like the whole Atomic Habits thing. You just start small and then build from there. Then the compound interest of that over time will yield results, right?
Yeah.
So let's move on to the final pillar of health, social. So it's interesting that, because when I think about that, I just think what it means is when you think of social, it's like, are you getting enough social connection and stuff? I also think there's an other side to this. Is I think depending on your own personal needs for social connection, where the balance is between privacy, between being alone and being with people. Some people do well for being alone or having a balance. Like, for example, one of the emotional needs we have is privacy, as we mentioned earlier. One of the things for me with that, like socially, I feel like I've been getting enough social connection and speaking to people enough. I do not think I've been getting enough alone time. I don't think I've been getting enough privacy at all. Because I live with you, I live with Ryan, and when Jonas is back, I live with him too. And that's been the case for ages. And often I spend very little time alone, and I used to. And we need alone time to consolidate our experiences and to make sense of things and to be with ourselves, our own thoughts and our own feelings, and to attend to ourselves. I don't think I've been getting enough of that. I have been getting enough social connection. And yeah, that's been good. But I think for me, it's the privacy thing. So it's the being alone. But what would you say for you?
Yeah, it's I similar. It's almost the same thing, which is interesting because even the way I just wrapped up the previous topic there for myself is that those three things are so interconnected: the sleep, exercise, and movement, and all that, and food. But in this case, it's almost like a separate chapter for me. I've always seen this as something else, the social thing, and I've undervalued it always. I've never, ever consciously put thought into my social connections. If anything, I kind of almost brushed it aside as not important. And I was always the guy that other people would contact me. I would never make the first move with friends. And I think I've lost a lot of good friendships over the years where they kind of give up on you because they're like, oh, I'm always making the effort. And it's not for a lack of wanting to be with those people, but I tend to lean on the privacy thing. And therefore, I'll just remain private. And then whatever social interactions happen, they happen. And because I'm a fairly friendly, outgoing, nice guy, social just gravitates towards me, always.
Yeah.
Easy. I've never had to seek social connections. They fall in front of me. But what I've learned from the last year is that that's maybe a reason why I didn't want to engage, because you're kind of letting maybe the wrong thing. I'm not saying that those are the wrong people, but you're letting it happen to you. You're not making a conscious effort to go out into the world and make those connections and basing it on your common interests and that kind of thing.
Not being proactive with it.
Yeah, it was always like my ex-girlfriend. It would be her friends were my friends as opposed to making my own friends. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point is where I'm at now, I kind of miss the old thing because now, again, it's like we work together, we live together. Did I make that choice? I do like it, and I have liked it, and I there are aspects of that, but there are just conscious decisions that I didn't make. Yeah. And now we're at a point, even where we are right now today, where we're actually going, we haven't thought about this. Let's talk about it. And that's what we've been doing behind the scenes, where we're going to live in the future, how we're going to break this up. Because I really value my friendship time with you outside of work. That's just a blur, isn't it, at the moment?
It's all blurred. But the thing is about the social connection thing is, you mentioned that social connections just sort of appear.
Yeah.
So when it comes to social connection, it's not necessarily about the amount of people around you and stuff. It's how fulfilled you feel. Because some people can have one or two really good friends and they're fulfilled. Some people can have one good friend and they share everything with that person and they feel a really good connection. And that's their glass is full with that.
I feel burdened.
With
oh shit, I didn't contact those people. Oh,
with too many
flip,
people.
I didn't reach out. Oh God, I'm a bad friend. Oh God, I mean every message. Oh, sorry, you haven't heard from me. Oh, I'm such a bad friend. That was every flipping second text from me.
Right.
It was a burden because it was like, I don't know, I have to deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can understand people who have one or two like close friends and they kind of let the rest sort of be acquaintances or whatever. Like I get that.
Yeah. So where am I at right now? Trying to be more deliberate on my habit board. I actually have a friend column. It feels stupid because you should feel like you shouldn't have to be forced to speak to your friends. But it did make me confront, who do I want to speak to? Who deserves that time to say, who deserves that little bit of like, hey, Dean reached out to me. Wow, I must be important in that person's life.
I honestly agree with that. I think that's it. If you become this self-help junkie that just fucking makes everything into a healthy habit that needs to be ticked off, and then you start thinking, okay, I must say I love you to my wife today. Did I do that?
3
No,
times.
I didn't. I didn't cross it off the list. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, stop it.
So that's not on my board anymore. But I had to do it. I had to do it because I wasn't being deliberate about it or conscious of it.
But one thing it did do, very much like tracking a week of your food in MyFitnessPal, for example, would be to sort of pay attention to this and bring some awareness to it.
That's all it
is.
is.
The people that you're messaging, do you want them in your life? Do you gain something from this? Is it a reciprocal relationship where you feel equally seen and connected to this person? Do you enjoy this? Or do you feel like you have to message them every now and then to please them because they'll get upset otherwise?
Exactly.
And if you're in that if you're in that kind of friendship, then it's like, it's not a friendship. It's you pleasing someone.
Yeah.
You know, then it's like that's.
Plus you're procrastinating on doing it then because you didn't want to in the first place, or because it's difficult for you or whatever it is. And then that eats you. It's just that vicious circle kicks in so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, yeah, it's true. And it just reminds me of The Sims, the game. It sounds like social connections and stuff.
Yeah.
So you got to just call someone up. It's not as simple as that in real life. You know, on The Sims, you could just call up a friend and just speak, and then the social meter would just fill up.
Yeah.
But it's not as simple as that in real life.
Isn't it? Sometimes I don't know that sometimes I feel like it is.
Well, actually, now that you mention it, I do have a friend who she's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And we've in our entire friendship spanning years now, we've been apart. Like I was in different cities or countries for way longer than we've been in the same place.
Yeah.
And we just keep in contact through like video chat and stuff. And it's fine. I still consider her one of my best friends. So yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah.
But that's it. Like I procrastinate on those, the things that make me feel good. Well, one of them is like grandparents. You know, you don't have them around forever. And sometimes all they get from you is a call or something. And like why do I procrastinate on that? I'm afraid of something, clearly. There's something fearful. But every time I do get through it and overcome that fear, and I had to put that on my board. It was like, phone your damn grandfather.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I procrastinate on calling my grandma.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's maybe that does need to go on my habit board.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing it better now. So actually listening to, I didn't expect myself to say many, like all these, like, oh, I'm doing better here and better there. But truthfully, you know, since having joined this team in Ikario, my life has changed for the better. And being around all of you is just, it's been motivating to, as I've said in previous podcasts, it's just more self-awareness of my own relationships to these things. That's all that's really changed.
Yeah.
Nothing. I haven't deliberately tried to eat healthier. I haven't deliberately tried to exercise more. That just came with. And I think that's why we wanted to kind of leave stress management towards the end of this topic. It's like, do you have to deliberately go and manage your stress?
Dude, when it comes to stress, and I guess we'll slowly start to wrap up with this one, but I think when stress management becomes yet another thing that you need to do, another box that you need to tick, it doesn't serve its purpose anymore. This is why I'm reluctant to even say stress management. Yeah. It's more like pay attention to. I'm more inclined to suggest that people pay attention to the sources of stress in their life, and it's more like stress is more like taking bags off the buckaroo. Yeah. Right. Whereas if you say, right, you need to manage your stress levels, meditate, do all these journaling and stuff, it's like you're adding more shit to the pile, right? Whereas I think in the same way that sleep, I think stress management and sleep can almost be coupled together in how you approach them. Is more like a non-doing, as opposed to like a lot of things you need to do and add. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
All right. Well, those are the 4 pillars of health.
Yeah. Which one has to not stress about?
Yep. Sleep and nutrition. I'm going to stress. I'm going to stress about those things and improve them. Yeah. No, not really. But yeah, that was the 4 pillars. We also covered stress just a little bit. And yeah, we audited our own situations with that. Hope that was in some way valuable for you. More of an informal sort of conversation today with a few tidbits of practical stuff thrown into the mix. Hope you enjoyed it. Go to the show notes for this episode will be ikario.com/043. And as always, if you related to anything we talked about today, I want to throw your 2 cents into the mix. Leave us a voice note, leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/ikario. We'll respond to that voice message in a future episode as well. And with that, I think that's everything, Dean.
Yep.
All right. Take care, guys.
Ciao.
And we'll see you next week.